Mhm. There it is. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Paranormal Q&A with Jack Kenna and Carly Hall. I said it for you, didn't I, Carly?
Yes, you did. That's all right.
So, how has your week been? What you been doing?
My week's been good. Yeah, I've been sick for the past couple days, but nothing too bad.
I think you had the stomach bug I had.
Yeah, or food poisoning.
One or the other. Yeah.
Either way, I'm getting better, anyway, so that's what's important.
Yeah, you've been still doing some streaming and stuff too, I know. So keeping busy with that too. And that's going well, right? You got more followers again?
Yep, more followers. 139 followers on Twitch now, 15 subscribers on YouTube, and I'm going to be starting a new YouTube series as of today. So.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
She keeps trying to drag me into it. I refuse. So, anyways,
Chat
I get jealous too because
drag you into it.
Yeah. She keeps talking to this person, Chat. I don't know who that is, but getting a little jealous of Chat. Oh, there's our friends Bob Maloney and Bobby Carter here tonight, and we have two very special friends with us tonight, don't we, Carly? We have James Annitto and Carl Johnson of Duo Daemonologie, and we've known them both for a long time. But they started this new Duo Daemonologie, which is pretty cool. And if you guys ever want to check them out, I just got to bring up their website real quick here. There it is. Pretty cool. It's demonology.org. You can see it right there. Just pull that up. We'll post that link for you later on, but I just wanted to pull that up. So tell us a little bit about our two guests tonight, Carly.
Yes. So Duo Daemonologie is a research unit comprised of demonologists Carl Johnson and James Annitto. It's the central goal of Duo to legitimize demonology, study of the lore and tradition of wicked spirits through application of scientific methods. Carl Johnson has been investigating reports of strange phenomena for the past 47 years, beginning with his association with noted ghost hunting couple Ed and Lorraine Warren. As members of a team based at Rhode Island College, Carl and his twin brother Keith were called in to investigate the Perrins family farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island during August and September of 1973, and they alerted the Warrens to the Perrins situation. 40 years later, this inspired a motion picture titled The Conjuring, and we had Carl on as well a couple shows ago. So now we have James. James Annitto is a deacon and a demonologist who has worked alongside many other specialists in this field. James is also a paranormal investigator, researcher, and member of Sanctuary Paranormal and the former founder and owner of the Dominion Ministry. He's been in the paranormal field since the early age of 15, investigating graveyards and legendary surrounding in the New England area such as Mercy Brown, Ladd School, USS Salem, and Slater Mill. His knowledge of the paranormal came from reading many books in his early years, watching Unsolved Mysteries, Scariest Places on Earth, and then eventually Ghost Hunters increased his interest and knowledge of the field. So let's see, I'm just... I lost my place. His first ever experience came with his hand showing.
It's all right. We forgive you.
A ghostly figure peeking out of a window during one of their vacations. With this experience, James came to love the paranormal and knew that he wanted to be a part of this field when he got older. And that is James Annitto.
Mm-hmm. And I'll add a little bit something else to that probably people don't know, is James actually gave us some advice and stuff when we were working that one demonic case we had, the possession case. And we talked to James about a few things on that. He gave us some good pointers and some good insight. And see, my point there is we always turn to other people to assist us when we need it, when we're a little bit beyond our own knowledge. So it's always good to do that, anybody out there. Yeah. So without further ado, I will bring on James and Carl. I'm going to take down their website and then bring them up. And here they are. There they are.
Hi.
How you doing tonight, gentlemen?
We are okay. We've had dinner, so I guess we're set.
Yes. And chocolates and our Fanta pineapple juice. So
yeah, just looking watching a movie to cheer us up and all that. What, The Exorcist? Is that what we were watching?
No, we were actually
watching Deliverance.
We were actually watching Deliverance.
So we're gangbusters now. Anything to cheer us. Yeah. Oh God.
Watching The Exorcist to cheer you up. That's yeah. Oof, I don't know.
Not exactly.
That's a movie. Yeah, we're halfway through it. So after this great show that we're on with our great friends, we're going to finish Deliverance.
Deliverance has nothing to do with the ministry. This is a river trip that goes horribly wrong. That's why we're so happy now.
We gotta watch that.
Yes,
that sounds good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is. Yeah. Yeah. It's good. Deliverance is a great movie.
It's well acted.
Yeah, especially the kid playing the banjo part. That was awesome. It's right at the beginning. Yeah. That's a great beginning. Yeah, it gets a little wanky later on in that movie, though. I don't know. Be careful.
Yeah, these are bad situations. We just saw the wanky.
Yeah, we showed the bad part.
Oh, okay. All right. Carly has no idea what we're talking about. Yeah, Carly has no idea what we're referring to, but she'll find out one day. She'll go, "What? What's that all about?" I do want to take just a quick moment to say hello to some of our friends out there who are watching there. Mark Carl Mitchell, Barry Martz, Bob Maloney, Bob Burnell, Leanne Rodriguez is out there. We got a whole bunch of people tonight. Wow, you guys are popular. They're not coming to see me, I'll tell you that. All right. So we got everybody out there. We thank you all for joining us. And you've got two very interesting gentlemen here with us tonight. And for all of our friends who are watching out there, our usual viewers and new viewers, and this is a chance to, if you got questions for these two guys who are probably, I don't know, the knowledge between the two of you on demonology and stuff is I don't know how many years worth is it?
More collectively or what? I have,
just collectively.
I have 47 years.
And I have 15. So
yes, we got a conglomeration going.
Yeah, 65.
Yeah, I mean these.
And if you throw into it, we're well over 100 by now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And that's my point. So because people always ask us a lot of different stuff about, how do you tell a demon from a ghost and all this different stuff? And how do you know if you got a demonic? These are the guys that can really answer these kind of questions for you because they've dealt with it. They've seen more than Carly or I ever have, Carl especially has been dealing with stuff for years and years. Yeah. And the difference between an oppression and a possession and what leads up to all that, I mean, I know a little bit, James has taught me more, and so have you, Carl. But these are the two guys. So if you guys got stuff out there, you're listening or watching tonight, ask these guys. These are the guys. So, but tell us a little bit. There's a reason you created Duo Daemonologie. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Carl has a lot to do with that specifically, definitely, of course.
Yeah, tell our origin story, though.
Of course, there's the duo, the two, and then there's Daemonology, right. The old parlance of King James.
Yeah, spelled with an I-E-D-A-E-N.
Yep, which basically formulated the ideologies of demonology and pop culture. Even it's a branch of angiology, which is, of course, from theology, but before then, demonology wasn't so popularly well-known, welcomed as
it was just another ology.
Yeah,
right.
That changed perspectives. So basically, Carl and I had worked together 10 years ago.
Precisely 10 years ago. Well, this year.
Yeah, I was his tech manager for Beyond the Veil Paranormal, and we had worked together on quite a few private home investigations and public investigations as well. Mm-hmm. And Carl and I had met then, and we had a good chemistry. Of course, life happens, and sometimes it
divides us unintentionally.
And some time came forth. He was my basically my influence in wanting him and his brother were my influence in wanting to get involved with demonology. So I have a lot of respect and credit towards Carl, and of course, specifically his brother as well, who's not necessarily not part of a duo in a way, but does work with us and associations with him. And so, but Duo was formulated because where I'm at now, of course, 10 years later and learning under so many other people and the routes that I've gone, I look back at something that I've always wanted. And I know Carl has had this as well because, he joined on the journey with that idea, helped co-found it. But Duo Daemonologie was basically a conglomeration. Yeah. Talking about words we can't
You
pronounce.
can call it a conglomeration. You could call it a collaboration.
Thank you.
But you don't have to call me Johnson.
Yeah, definitely. But so it's a collaboration between Carl and I, and basically trying to approach demonology in a format that we can have other people understand what in fact is the rarities of demons, the ways that we handle cases, the ways we have handled cases in the past,
and misconceptions about demons, which are rife.
Our experiences, try to educate people in the natural before they jump to the preternatural. And I thought Carl, with his 47 years of experience, the first investigator in the Conjuring House, a legend. Not to pump his ego, but a legend. He really is. There's not many people that you can say you've met that have had this amount of experience. So I thought it would be a great journey.
Thank you.
If we're to legitimize something, you definitely need to have somebody that you can work with, the synergy. And Carl and I have that. And I think we will, in fact, change the landscape one day, but it takes time.
You hear what he says about legitimize demonology, because people either don't take it seriously or they're totally spooked by it. What do? Find demons, summon them, because it's got that word in it, it's got the D word. But we lack that clinical terminology, the nomenclature that sounds scientific. We say demons, we say ghosts, hauntings, all very smacks of the supernatural. But until we devise more grounded terminology, that's what we have to talk about. Because it has a riveting resonance to it. When you say demon, people know it's a wicked spirit. There's no debating that, And that's how we define demonology. It's the systematic study of the lore and cultural traditions of wicked spirits. So all in all, that doesn't sound very scientific, but that's what we're trying to change. We're legitimizing it, taking it out of the cobwebs of the Middle Ages and thrusting it into modern times.
Very cool. Yeah, you guys are doing a lot. I mean, and I like the fact that you're educating people more with it. And I know that's what you're it's all about. And I know you've educated me a lot more on it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, and I've been running into a lot more different types of cases. So it's good to know what is what. And people do get confused just because something seems negative, or every time they see what they see on TV, somebody thinks they have a haunting, they immediately always thinks it's a demon, right?
Because it's serious, so it's scary, so it has to be evil.
Yeah, exactly.
We have trouble with social distancing. If we're in a social setting, all we have to do is say, "I'm a demonologist." Then people clear space. They'll give you the front row. Because people don't understand what that means, and that's totally comprehensible. People are going to be a little spooked by that.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it does, and we've seen it. I mean, if I've just recently got like 2 different emails from people saying they've got a demon in their house.
Really?
Automatically, and they don't even really explain everything that's going on. They just said, "Oh, these people are being," and it's from somebody else. It's not from the people themselves. It's always like, "Oh, my brother's got this evil thing in his house, and I'm pretty sure it's a demon, and he doesn't want to talk about it." And blah blah.
Yeah, and some people come from a scriptural background of it too. That of course they read in between the lines of Holy Scripture, and they don't do research and understand the bylaws of everything that has occurred within that time frame, and they jump to the conclusion that they're dealing with something, so it's automatically evil as well.
Because they don't understand it, therefore it's fearsome, it's intimidating, it's the dark, it's the unknown. So.
Right. And it is scary to people who haven't dealt with any of this before. I mean, and they only know, a lot of people do know what they see on TV or in the movies, right? So it's
paranormal activity. It's called paranormal activity, but there's a demon that comes out of the whole thing out of it. It's
right. We do have a question for you guys from Bob Burnell. I'm going to post it up here, and then we'll read it out to you. It'll pop up. Things are being a little slow tonight. There it is. All right. So, question for you guys. My group is going to the Conjuring House in January, and wanted to ask what is really behind the hauntings at the Conjuring House. I have heard the whole Bathsheba thing is hooey. So,
Oh my God, is that ever loaded with misconceptions?
Well, I guess Bob didn't watch the Conjuring the Truth video on YouTube. Oh
Well,
gosh, Bob.
Yeah.
Bob.
Well, we can always, it's still available. Conjuring the Truth. That's what we came up with. And it featured my brother as well, because we were, eyewitnesses to that. There are some consistencies to that haunting. I'm not going to say that there's no paranormal activity there, because certainly there is. Right. But what you experience there one week may be totally different from what you do the next. It depends on the people involved and what conditions prevail. So some people come in and have a very good experience and get a little spooked by it, see some things move, hear disembodied voices, and they have a wonderful time, maybe record some stellar EVP. Somebody else may not get anything, but it depends on what, it can depend on attitude, their approach. The house, I think, is the haunting.
Definitely.
The house has a personality. It was built in 1736. It's had time to accrue a lot of presence, you know what I mean? And if the house doesn't like someone, it's not going to perform. It's not going to give them anything, except kind of an easy feeling. And that's been borne out. One thing that's been consistent there, and I wouldn't say that it's something where I can't stay here anymore. I can't. It's not like, well, of course, Jen and Corey Heinzen live there, and their son Tyler's there quite a bit. So to them, it's scary when you have to bed down and you're going to be there all night. But one thing that's consistent is the shadow form. It's not so much a shadow person; it's amorphous. It's a darkness that pervades the room, and for some reason, it doesn't travel through the walls. I mean, you think of this thing as being spiritual and insubstantial. It should be able to go through walls and all that.
Follows a pattern.
Yeah, but it does. It seeks the easiest egress. It will follow through the hallways, come up the stairwell from the cellar, the basement, which is strange because it shouldn't have to do that. But for some reason, it follows some physical rules. And people notice, oh, this room got dark. What is my eyes? This room is darker. It's darker. This thing kind of oozes in. It is not evil, intrinsically evil on its own. It's not good. It just is. And we don't know its source. I think it's the house manifesting itself, telling people it's there. I experienced that in August of 1973, and I experienced it last November, and people still do. In fact, Tyler Heinzen, Jen and Corey's the current homeowner's son, he didn't know anything about my past experience there, and he just knew I'd been there. But he shot out of the bedroom. He didn't want to stay the night because he saw something black in there, something dark. And of course, Jen and Corey, his parents asked him to describe it. So there's something black came in, this black cloud came in. So, oh my word, when I heard that, that's what I experienced. That's what I saw. People have since.
Yeah. As far as my opinion, I've been able to check it out a few times. Thanks to Carl. And I, of course, was intertwined with the Heinzens as well, before they bought the house. But, I feel like the same thing Carl says. Basically, it's the house. I've seen the same thing. You put enough emotion into, think about haunted objects. You put emotion or physicality to this object from a former person. Same thing with the house. You have all these emotions. You have all these things, different people that have been associated with the house. Of course,
there are a lot of personalities there, even in our time, even within living memory.
So there's all that, and I think that it reacts to the individuals. The house is the haunting, but of course, there's people that are the batteries as well, and that battery is
a good way to put it too. Basically, starts that haunting and how it's going to occur. Like, I've never had a bad experience there. Yes, I felt atmospheric changes. It probably would have been barometer changes if I had the right equipment, stuff like that. Right. But definitely, you definitely feel differences in the house. Maybe it's also the wood, of course, how old it is. There's so many factors that associate in that house, but it's a fascinating house. It's a great piece of Rhode Island history, and I've had the great pleasure to check it out.
Carly and I have to try to get down there ourselves sometime. Another house that's like that is the Hinsdale house is like that, actually.
Hinsdale house, we had a great time.
The Dandy House, I've been there so many times.
The Dandy House.
Yeah,
well, these houses need to be fed. They want nourishment from people's energies, people's emotions, especially psychically gifted people, empaths, sensitives. They go in there, they feed this house, and that's not a bad thing at all. It's not like the house is taking over them, despite what you may have seen in an episode of Ghost Adventures.
Well, that can happen with any construct. You know, the house is like a construct. It's some people would call it an artificial intelligence or poltergeist.
I'm thinking there's something of a poltergeist there, and it's part of a house now. It's in the material.
But it still can affect an individual.
Yeah. You've heard of a trigger object, you know, something that has small densities, contains memory. I think the house is a trigger object filled with trigger objects. And some people set that off. Some people have an ability to revive that, and they bring the poltergeist, which is dormant most of the time. They bring it out. And they don't even know they're doing it.
Right. Their energy is what's bringing it out. We do have another question for you guys from Sierra, and I hope I got her name right. Let's bring this up. And she is saying, well, if it doesn't come up anyway. Oh, here it goes. Right. It's for you two. I have a question. Is true demonology something we should truly be afraid of, or something we can embrace more as a psychic or empath?
Well, it's both, but I'd say more the latter, that it can be embraced if properly approached. You know, it's a tool. Demonology is a tool. It's a systematic study. It need not be intimidating. In fact, if someone pursues demonology as a study, they can draw on others' experiences. You know, like I have a book out. You know, I showed you when I was your guest last time, Shadow Realms Demonology Handbook, and that has case histories I've logged over the years. There's some things I would have done differently. Some things seem to work, and I just list that and give some advice based on my own experience. It's certainly not the definitive work on demonology, but it gives a personal insight and you know, of my own experiences that I've had in some of these houses, these dwellings.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think his book's a great material to read in that.
In fact, if you got your copy, I'll just start reading to them. You know, it'll take up an hour doing that.
You have a great voice. You could be like hearing a voiceover by Morgan Freeman, but not tonight, Carl.
I can do Morgan Freeman. I need you.
But no, seriously, demonology, it can be a study. It is very fascinating to understand, especially if you are spiritual, religious, whichever. You know, even theology in itself is fascinating with the Summa, and how theology digs into the study of God. But yeah, study of angels and study of demons is fascinating. If you dabble in this kind of work, you deal with people, you should have a little basis of understanding of what you could come across, or what has been created by the consciousness of human beings, what people might think they're dealing with, and you can understand the characteristics and interpret it into what could actually be naturally concluded if they have psychological issues. So demonology is fascinating, but if you apply it like Carl and I do, and we assess cases, then it's different. If you're an empath, medium, and you believe that is your sensitivity or your intuition, whatever it is that you connect to, you have to be careful in doing it in an applied state, because we put ourselves at risk.
Yeah, know your limitations, know your propensities. You know, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Where are you most vulnerable? And that's what you try to counter.
Yeah, definitely. You have to be strong. You have to be strong in many things. We're not perfect. We're not superhuman. We're not Iron Man or Iron Men. But you know, in the same respect, there's a difference between studying firefighting and become a firefighter. There's a difference between being a virologist and studying viruses and then actually trying to create a cure. So there's differences, you know, and so we apply it, and so it's a long study, so you can embrace it. But just know where your pathway is. Are you going to apply it, or are you going to just study to learn it?
Right. James says applied demonology. That's what we do. You know, we're out in the field at times, and we consult with people. Demonology can just be that study, you know, learning about it. But you know, people consult. We have a consultation. So people call us for advice, and you know, try to sort things out.
Right, which is kind of what we did when we had our case. We I contacted James, and I got talking to him about some different things, and he gave us some good advice, you know, with dealing with that. And
I posted if you don't mind me saying it, so people, your listeners, maybe that don't follow us, but it's by William Osler. He says, to study the phenomena of disease without books is to sail an uncharted sea, while to study books without patience is not to go to sea at all. So you can study it, but if you're not applying that study, you never understanding if it truly does exist or not.
Good point. And that is a good point. It's like anything. You can learn as much as you want, but if you don't apply it, what are you really doing with it? I mean, you have it, but if you don't go study it out in the field, or you don't go take it that step further, you're not really going to learn more about it, right?
Yeah.
Or truly understand it.
Yeah.
I think, you can't understand everything just from a book, right? So you can learn from a book, but if you never pick up the book, you're never going to know anything, right?
Yeah.
So there is that too. So it's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point to make. I mean, and that's why, I mean, not getting off subject completely, but that's why when I decided to do my classes on training for the paranormal, training people who want to learn and be able to investigate the paranormal, not talking about demonology here, just talking about people who want to go out and investigate. We made sure we included an actual investigation. Put the practical to the theoretical, right? So they have hands-on along with that. It's just like, when you go to college, if you've got your classes and then you have your lab.
Yeah.
Right? You got to do it. You got to do it, or you don't know what you're doing, right? So and that's a good point. Like if you're studying demonology, you can learn a lot, but if you don't take it the next step further to try to really go out and understand it, you never really will, right? But you can always discuss it. You can always discuss theology and the and I love those discussions, because we've had a couple of just what does this really mean, and in this book it says this, and what is he talking about there, so because I've been still reading all those books from Father Amort, so I still am, I'm still reading them. I finished 2 of them.
Where is it?
You got it. He's going up to his expansive library.
Yours is in my room, but yeah. See,
I have the other book. I have that book. Yes, I have it. I bought all the books you told me to. I did. I have them all. So I just haven't finished them all, but I am still reading them. But and they're very interesting reads. I mean, and maybe we'll put some of that up there tonight. We'll give a listing out to the people. The different books are out there if you want to read them. At least the ones that you gave me.
Shadow Realms that touches on a lot.
Yeah, put yours out there too. Yeah, and plug that tonight. Be sure you plug your book tonight.
I already put a link for the Amazon.
Oh, you did? Okay, Carly already took care of it for you.
You explore our website, and there are so many books I could recommend, even about chaos magic, which is a passion and an interest of mine. Anything that touches on the phenomenon of synchronicity, which is genuinely real. But I would recommend reading the Holy Bible and the Satanic Bible, and a lot in between. Because you got to see both sides. I think to be a successful demonologist, somebody has to be something of an angelologist too.
Yeah.
You just don't have to be a demonologist. You don't have to do that, be a demonologist, but I would say, look at both sides.
And sometimes mistakenly dermatologist, but we do not deal with the skin.
Yeah. Some people need that though. Some people need a dermatologist.
I could have used that last year.
Just kidding. Feel the burn.
Feel the burn.
Good,
yep.
So good. Hey, let me ask you this. Besides your own book, this actually is to both of you, is there, like, if somebody was really just interested in it, is there one book you would kind of recommend to start with?
Well, let's see.
Somebody who knew nothing about it but wanted to start to learn.
Probably it's time to learn. I could say John Zaffis in Into the Light.
Okay.
Is that the title, or is it The Shadow?
Into the Shadows.
Into the Shadows.
Yes.
Yeah, that has a little more resonance if you say Into the Shadows. John Zaffis, because he gives case histories in it. I say that's a very good primer. I have to recommend my brother's books, Paranormal Realities, parts 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Those are good primers.
Those are good. Those would be good startup books. Yeah, I do have John's. I know I have John's Zaffis, but I know
I would
they have.
definitely say for people that are interested in, like, there's a great book called Mythology that you can get from
Is that
Barnes and Noble.
I think I know which one.
But it basically is a history of every mythos out there. But
That's the compendium by
it's
Rosemary
compendium,
Ellen Guiley.
but no, it's not by her. But there is a where it's leading into that is a compendium by Rosemary Ellen Guiley called Encyclopedia of Demons and Demonology.
Very good resource book.
Very great resource book. It's very interesting.
And Elise disagrees with you there too. I'm just putting that up there.
Yep.
So Elise is out. She's obviously out there listening with us tonight. So watch with us. She said that same thing. So I wanted to throw that up there for everybody to see.
Great book, and she unfortunately passed away, and she's no longer with us. But been writing since 1989. So she's definitely very well.
Had a lot of knowledge, obviously. Yeah.
Yes, I knew Rosemary very well. I was even on a Bigfoot hunt with her. Went down to Maryland for a haunted case that actually turned out to be demonic. We had our suspicions it was. So, we did some things together. I'm glad I had that wonderful opportunity to get to know her and work with her and just sometimes just sit and talk with her.
I was supposed to speak with her for the first time and meet her for the first time before she passed, and I didn't get to meet her, unfortunately.
Well, I'm blessed that I did, and I can tell you a lot about her.
Yeah, she was a great person.
I also got to meet Ed and Lorraine Warren and worked with them and lectured with them, and that was an experience.
Yeah, you can't, regardless of what you think, The Demonologist by Gerald Brittle is a great book as well. It's definitely like a catchy book.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there then. Yeah. But I do have to admit it was John's book that I picked up from him. I forget which event it was at, but I picked it up from him. And that was the one that really kind of got me started being more interested in the demonology thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what he does. He takes it from the perspective of the demonologist. And John Zaffis was Ed Warren's relation, his blood nephew. Of course, he does. He's quite established on his own merit. But that he was initially known for.
Talking about John, the point of there's Carl's book for people that are wondering. I went down.
Yeah, it is.
And this is John's new book with Reverend Larry and Debbie Elward. It's a great book as well. So if you're interested in reading John, those are case files as well between Reverend Larry and John.
What lurks within.
See, when
you guys are giving me some good reading material for this whole pandemic thing.
Yeah. I remember Real Magic by Philip Emmons Isaac Bonowitz was a primer for me.
That was a good one.
I read that in 1971, and then he revised it some years later, like a decade later. Yeah, emulsified it. And that was a good source because it does touch a lot on the paranormal. And we just happened
I totally forgot about that book. Yeah, I actually.
You remember that? P.E.I. Bonowitz?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I don't know if I had it. No, I didn't have it, but somebody else had it. I borrowed it from him. I don't think I ever finished it though, but I gave it because I gave it back to them. But I do remember that book, and it was a good book. I can tell you that much. from the part, I think I read half of it, but it was years ago. I used to hang on to stuff too long. So it's like, I got to give this back. But yeah, I got to pick that up again because I remember that reading at least half of that book, and I really enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. I just never got to finish it. We do have another question for you guys. And this is from Barry Martz. I've learned that demons have names. What would be the approximate total number of named demons that a demonologist would know of? What is the importance of getting the demon to provide its name during an exorcism?
Let's see, 984. No, I'm just saying that. I'm just being Rain Man here. There are, and they are constructs from clerics, from human beings in most or all cases. I mean, all of these names of demons are devised. It's not like these demons appeared on Earth and said, "This is my name. This is what you will call me."
Right.
Remote past sense that may be, but they all mean something. They all have a basic intrinsic meaning to them. So you've got like names like Belial, which is mastery of the earth. Beelzebub, Asmodeus, which is Greek. Yeah, and you can kind of tell just from the sound of them what the origin is. Hebraic, many of them Leviathan and all that. So those are some of the princes of hell. They're called the primary demons, and they're all like many of these emerged in the Middle Ages, like Flutery and Belphegor and all that come out. And
some associated gods of other religions, paganistic religions.
And it's not that I don't take them seriously, even though I will pronounce them, and they don't bother me saying them, but they are rooted in some belief, some tradition, and people have used them in conjurations, I'm sure. Sometimes a demon may even identify itself by their name, but it's rare when you get an audio manifestation, but it does happen. I've heard it.
Yeah, I think Carl says a good point. There's a lot of literature, and we just talk about books. For somebody like myself that doesn't have a very great memory like Carl does, can spew things out like it's
mine's just running out of my ears.
There's like compendiums, like the encyclopedia. There, of course, there's the Goetta,
The Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that's got a ton of tongue.
Yeah, no, I got stuck there. It's a long day. But,
I'm rubbing off on you.
And so there's a lot of books you can read about that. If names come out in cases, or you're researching the case and you want to know if that is actually a formal name that has been used in prior literature or been caught through clerics or other religious people. So there is that literature. Of course, like Carl said, there are the princes of hell and
yes,
other higher demons that are more formally known by name, like that usually are connected through some hierarchy. There's been many differences in that through different people with their structure of how hell is structurized. Of course, some saying the best way to interpret it is through the sins, like lust, greed. There is a demon.
There's a patron's demon, you might say, for each of these sins,
so
associated with those sins, primary sins.
Yeah, but
all right.
So there's so much you can do to deal with the name.
It's fascinating just looking up the origins.
Yeah, as far as the name for an exorcism, the reason that a name is pretty powerful in that ritual, of course, in that form of psychotherapy as well, if the person does believe they are possessed by this force, is that a name gives a definition to what you're dealing with.
Yes, it defines, and therefore it has power over the invasive entity. If you know its name, you can constrain it.
Yeah,
that's what it's thought.
It's like it's in the same concept. If you don't know your enemy, then how can you protect yourself? Your enemy's going to get at you because you don't know who it is. Sun Tzu has a lot of the art of war. It is a good concept to why you want to know what you're dealing with, who you're dealing with. It's easy to understand when you know what you're dealing with. But if you don't, there's so much mystery. There's so much unknown to it. And even in the art of exorcism, as strong as it is, and maybe the person has become more instilled with faith, still sometimes, of course, maybe these things have free will as well, or if they are constructs, maybe they are so strong they have their own intelligence now, whichever. There's so much theory within it. But of course, they could still stay latched on until maybe you get the name. But there is power within the name. There is. Like there's power within the name saying Lord Jesus Christ and God. And, for other people, their beliefs, it's powerful for them. So why is it not powerful?
Well, in the formal rite of exorcism, the Ritualis Romano, there's a section where, the demon must reveal its name as it's being cast out. I command you to speak your name or tell us your name. As a sign of your departure.
That's the pre-1999 version. Yeah, the post-1999 version, the church has, as much as I disagree with the current church teachings of it, but most current church teachings will say that getting the name is dangerous, and a lot of exorcists don't do it anymore. But a lot of the old school exorcists, like a follow Chad Ripperger, he still asks for the name within the ritual. But post 1999 version, and through, of course, changes in their structure, they of course try to hindered away from getting the names. But some exorcists will do it, of course.
And speaking of names,
was there a reason why they tried to get away from getting the names, or
because it's a little bit
more dangerous, you said? But
because they figure it's opening the
communication.
It's opening up a communication of the exorcist, the conduct, the conduit, if you will. It's making him, or could be her, too vulnerable. If you're asking, you are on a first name basis, so to speak, if you know the demon's name, and that's very dangerous. It is thought, especially for the person who is, you know, a very religious person, as would a pastor or priest be. So they now advise not to ask for the name or speak it. You know, it's kind of daring do well to do that.
I prefer it. Not to be provocative.
You like the directness of it. You know?
But you have command. You know, you're a human, but I think it's easier to drive something out when you know what it is, if you believe in that methodology, you know?
Right. We did have another question. I think you kind of already answered this, but I wanted to put it up there anyway. It was from Nick Mall. Heard that the demons' names represent the 7 deadly sins. Does that represent all demons' names or just a few, was his question.
No, just some are associated with those 7 deadly sins, like
7 princes.
Yeah, 7 princes of hell, like, you know, of lust, you know, and
who is lust?
Anger.
I forget.
Let me see.
Jeez, that's terrible. I forgot.
Yeah, I have heard, but that's
it's usually like Baal. It's Beelzebub. I think Beelzebub is
yes, Asmodeus is associated with greed.
Yeah, greed.
And, yeah. Well, we could look it up fast enough.
We could look fast enough now. Yeah, thank God.
Because you got more traditional ones like Lilith is
Yeah.
associated with lust. And
Yeah,
desire,
that's right.
you
Lilith
know,
is.
Yeah, but some people don't think that's a bad thing. It's the Wiccans, you know. Lilith does not have an evil connotation. She's, you know.
She's the first mother. Yeah.
Yes, and she's synonymous with Hecate, and you know. But other people think, you know, Lilith is a demon name, which you could look at it upon that way, because she was supposedly she was a person who was created by God and became demonic in that you know, line of thought. That belief.
Right. Yes, I do. Yeah, I do know that story. Here's something. This is actually somebody looking for, I guess, help. Really, I mean, that's what he says. But he says he's had an experience. He says has a problem and a question. Had experience with an entity. Long story short, just for this purposes anyway, I have had problems since. He talks about he had this experience. It was on top of him, sucking at his mouth. What and why would it do that? I have a lot of more to say, but need some help, so figured I would start with that. Okay, so this is Ryan Redding is the guy's name. So, I mean, I don't know if you really can't answer that right away. I don't think, but
Reach out.
Huh? Well, again, the question was, you know, he had this thing. The spirit, I guess he did an investigation or he did something, and he's had this experience with this spirit sucking at his mouth. He said, like somebody kissing you, I guess, or something like that. He's asking why would it do that. I don't know if we can answer that question, but he says there's a lot more to it. He just needs somebody to talk to and wanted to start with that. So
if he wants to reach out to us.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. But I did want to put it up there so he knew we didn't miss it. And, you know, maybe he can reach out to you guys and explain more of what's going on.
And briefly, I have run into something like that. And it was labeled Lamias Navitas, which means energy vampire. And I encountered a case 10 years ago, November of 2010 in Baltimore, Maryland. It was a virulent haunting, and people were experiencing something very much like that. Even people who were visiting friends would come in and say, "Oh, I got to get out of here. I'm feeling so tired, so lightheaded. What is it?" You know, and we ruled out the physical, the more obvious explanations, and that it could have been radon, it could have been something with the heating system in the house, or black mold, anything like that. All of these were pretty much ruled out. And that's when they called me in, and I was able to attend that case with Rosemary Ellen Guiley. And it was called Lamia Divitas because people were just getting, especially the lady of the house, nobody could find anything medically wrong with her. And she was better when she wasn't in the house. So it was addressed, and successfully so. I wouldn't say she was cured from that because it did come back, but yeah, something like that. I think that's what he's asking about, where you just feel this, you can lay down, all of a sudden something's on you. Now, there's also something called old hag syndrome, where a person will have a night terror when they're half dreaming, and they'll hallucinate, and they feel that something's prescient, and then they wake up and they're still feeling it. Now that's borderline preternatural. You know, you've got something psychic really going on, some experience, but it's thought of as being psychologically based. And in the end, since every case is different, you're dealing with individuals. You don't know until you explore it. But it does. It brings that to mind with that case in Baltimore, Maryland, where people being pressed, you know, just like the lady of the house felt she couldn't, who was the main subject of this haunting. Sometimes she felt like she couldn't get out of bed, and she was like wide awake and being held down.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to tell us the rest of your story, reach out demonology.org, and you know, we'll be willing to talk to you. If you need help, be willing to see if we could be a mediator.
Yeah, empirical. That's what I was looking for.
Empirical.
Some of the you know, the more obvious things that you got to rule them out first.
Yeah, definitely.
So there you go, Ryan. You can get them right here on Facebook. They have their Facebook page, Duo Daemonologie. You can reach out to them there. They also have their, which I put up before, their website there too. So I think, yeah, if you reach out, they can give you a lot more details and more information if you reach out.
Be sure.
Yeah.
All right, and I did see something else. Oh, no, this is from Steve White. Steve always has a good question, and I'm sure it has happened. And his question is, he says, "Good evening." He says, "Question: Has an exorcist ever performed an exorcism on an exorcist?"
I would think so. Do you know of a case?
Well, the movie The Right's a perfect example of, or the book The Right, based on a true story. It's a true account. So yes, and actually, most exorcists will have a fellow priest with them in that form, because guess what? When you are in front of a possessed individual and performing a ritual, you're also doing some religious provocation.
Because
so
you're open to
you're
it.
open,
and you're openly challenging the entity.
Your power of suggestion is more capable. So that, of course, the affliction of the entity could jump into the priest that's performing the exorcism, and then of course there's going to be somebody else that needs to help that person. So usually, a lot of the times, like a true exorcist with the church will usually have a deacon or another priest with them that can perform the ritual just in case.
It's like somebody else with on a ship, and they've got a life preserver in case, you know, the captain falls overboard.
Yeah,
they got their backup. And
even if it's not the rite of exorcism, maybe it's deliverance, or maybe it's even the baptism, something, even the Eucharist, performing Mass, and giving over the Eucharist, the body of Christ, that could pull, a performing Mass could pull the priest out of it. So yes, it's been documented, of course, and it doesn't happen all the time, but it does occur.
Yeah. Carly, you got to have a question for these guys. You had a 10-year demonic haunting.
Yeah.
You always got questions for me, and I don't have the answers. Maybe these guys do.
Maybe we do. Maybe we have that in our arsenal. An answer to your
She was never possessed, just so you know. She never got possessed or anything like that. But
thank God.
She was under
I mean, I think we'd know by now. Hopefully.
Well, when you're hungry, it's questionable.
I have growled at you. I won't lie. Hangry comes out. That's a whole different persona.
Yeah. I think that's a demon in itself.
You got to eat a stick for that, Betty White.
She almost lost my hand one day. I don't know. But you must have a real question, because you dealt with a lot of stuff for a long time. And you have asked me some questions, and I really didn't have the answers for you.
So one thing that was kind of really freaky that I do still kind of experience is that I will come up onto a situation where this situation should have scared me, but I already experienced it back then, because they they knew that I would have experienced this and it would have scared me. So they did it back then are they able to actually, and I know our guests have this question pops up all the time. Are they able to look into the future and pick things out to
You're talking about the demon spirits?
Demons have
No, they are it is thought that they are very perceptive and good guessers, so to speak, just as are some people. But as far as the supernatural ability to prognosticate the future, I don't think they have that ability or that gift. They, we have computers in our mind, we can figure things out. They seem like extrasensory perception, but sometimes we're just figuring things out fast. And I think the demon has that propensity. They have an ability to project, but not so much I can tell you the future. They may if they can articulate, they may say they can tell the future or tell your future, but I wouldn't believe it.
Most of the time, it's deception when they talk. They attempt to talk about your future. It does happen in a lot of cases, but it's more of an attempt at manipulation than actual. It's like basically what you could tell people, and not to say anything bad about tarot readers, but in the same form, a true tarot reader shall tell you that you can open that door to your right, and that reading is null and void if you didn't walk through the door to the left. It's the same thing. A demon can be like very perceptive, and then be able to say, okay, this you're going to lead down to death if you keep doing this. This is what I want you to do.
It's like trying to rely on a Ouija board. That's another form of divination, and Ouija boards can be fascinating, spirit boards, but I wouldn't. Go on anything that they told me if they said invest in a certain company and dump your life savings into it. Okay, this mystical oracle told me to dump all my money into this project, and I wouldn't ever listen to that.
But as far as Carly's situation, I definitely think that there could have been preparation by maybe higher power or in some form, what we look at as, especially in our role with people that deal with the demonic haunting. And then a lot of the cases, of course, it's like a psychologist. A psychologist dealt with traumatic experiences or very harming situations in their growing up or with their family members, and they became a psychologist. Carl and I became demonologists because Carl dealt with a haunting. Mm-hmm. Me, I hated God when I was young, and so it brought me down to this path. But there's certain reasons that we are brought down these paths, and you're involved with this. Maybe you were meant to deal with it, and instead of it being a traumatic experience in a bad way for you, it was an experience that hardened you, very shallow, gave you tough skin, and gave you the ability to do what you do.
Build up antibodies, so to speak. You build up a resistance to this.
Oh God, yeah. When we did the exorcism, I don't think I would have ever been able to stand there and look at the people afflicted or even be anywhere near them when the demonic came out, and with it, if I hadn't gone through what I went through. Like, there was no way possible, because I just was able to recognize it and go back to what I was taught and guided to do to protect myself and also be able to assist them. So yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
You wouldn't have been able to prevail if you hadn't had that previous experience to draw on.
Now, there's a question I have, because this has come up. There's not going to mention names or anything, but there's somebody else who told her when she had her haunting, there was another spirit, angel, whatever you want to call it, that came in and stopped her from killing herself at one point, and then started teaching her how to protect herself, how to get closer to God, and all these things. And there's an individual that told her, well, that was an actual demon trying to manipulate you. But it didn't make sense to me that would be the case. I mean, but could that? I mean, because this other entity, number one, stopped her from killing herself when she was going to, after dealing with those other two demonic things for all those years. Why would something that's also demonic then, or if it was the same thing, step in and try to stop her and then teach her how to get closer to God?
Well, sometimes deception is a long-lasting battle, so I could see where somebody would jump to the ability to say, because in reality, a demon doesn't want the host to die. They want to push the soul out and be in that physical body, that aka true possession or perfect possession, but maybe it didn't want her to kill her. And I don't necessarily think that's the possibility, but maybe it played devil's advocate here. You could say that the demon didn't want her to die and wanted to basically make her its game, basically. And they're very manipulative like that, very parasitical. They're
well, that's the strength of the demon. Where they're persistent,
very mischievous. So maybe in some form, if somebody looked at it in that box, they could say, "Oh yeah, it was a demon," because it really just was messing with her. But getting close to God, there's a saying that was said to me before I got ordained and joined seminary, and was the fact that the closer you get to God, the harder it gets. It's not the easier it gets; it's the harder it gets, because the more the closer you get to the goodness, there's going to be more people that want to trample on that and turn you.
Somebody's afraid you might do some good, accomplish something.
So,
well, that was the thing about whatever this other individual or whoever it was he taught her Reiki, how to heal herself.
Pretty much
Really?
just with like white light.
Yeah,
Instead
and he
of my
taught
own energy,
you.
yeah.
He taught you how to make different
Mhm.
whatever. What were they again? Like runes, whatever, to put around your door.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like a
other things out.
eclectic like combination of like every faith, but the positive aspects of it,
Hmm.
like in my room to make that safe space, so that it was like not. So it was like ultimately strong enough to kind of keep them out in a way. So it was more of like a rainbow runic doorway where he put different runes around my door, or he told me what runes to put around my door, the colors associated with them, the meaning. And what I didn't realize until like after I left that house was that was what I was learning. Like that was my kind of like modules in a sense, like it was different, and it was all in order of things that I went through and learned and like accomplished. So it was very strange. But I will tell you that those things influenced my parents like you wouldn't even believe. And
The other two
that
things.
door was so like protected, like slammed shut, that I was the only one who could open that door.
Yeah.
Nobody could.
Literally, physically, it's
Shoot, my mom threatened to take down the door because she was so frustrated that she couldn't open the door.
You know
But
what?
yeah, it was interesting.
When you,
What would you guys think that particular thing? Do you think it was really the demon just trying to confuse things, or do you think it was something else that was intervening?
Yeah, it's hard to define because you're only as good as your last case anyway, because everything's different.
Right. I'm just curious. I'm not really looking, I guess, for a total answer, but just, I mean, I always felt it was something that was working against those things. You know what I'm saying? Because why would it?
Guardian spirit or
From a rational perspective, why would it try to teach you how to get closer to God and how to protect yourself from demonic things if it was demonic?
because it's not all cut and dry like that. I mean, many demonologists want to think of those, if you will, black and white terms, but there's a lot of gray and a lot of integration there.
Right.
So sometimes you may have an angelic influence and a demonic one, or sometimes it may be just some entity that doesn't seem to have made up its mind, and it's all very mysterious. We're basically dealing with the unknown and unknowable, to quote H.P. Lovecraft on that.
Yeah.
In fact,
Interesting enough, that particular spirit, individual, whatever you want to call it, did show up to her during that demonic case we were working.
yeah, and sometimes you look at this entity you're researching and trying to make some sense out of it, listening to audio recordings. You just want to say, I don't understand you, where you're coming from. What do you want?
Yeah.
They're mysterious.
Yeah. And to add some funny aspect onto that,
There's a funny aspect.
there is.
Oh,
You said rainbows, Carly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you your power when you deal with people is the Care Bear stare. You've got the Care Bear stare.
I love that.
Care stare.
Get the Care Bear stare, girl.
We're gonna get her the rainbow Care Bear now, and with her, she'll bring that with her in every case and have it stare at the people.
Hug the Care Bear. It's okay.
See how they react to that.
I'll have to bring it over to you sometime and have you bless it.
Hey, I would definitely will.
Yeah, we did have another. I mean, we're running out of time here, but it's going on 8:00. But there was another question. I just wanted to throw this up because I know you'll probably have something to say about it. Here it is, Steve White again, because I don't think there is gender related to this, but Steve's asking this question. His question is: when it comes to a demonic possession, is it possible for a demonic female to take possession of somebody?
In
I don't
female,
think there is male and female, is there?
they don't have gender in themselves, but they can assume that because they matrix. They're drawing from us. If a demon appears in a human anthropomorphic form with the trunk and the arms and legs, and they're basically drawing on what we have. So they're using that substrate to manifest. So a demon could be in female form.
Definitely. Hey, succubi, incubi, a perfect example.
Yeah.
Well, succubi being the female version.
Or Lilith. I actually knew a practitioner of ritual magic who conjured Lilith.
Yeah.
And that was
Really?
good from what I heard.
Why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
Because Carl was doing crazy stuff back then.
Yes,
That's what I want to do. I want to conjure a demonic female. I don't think I want to do that.
Well, I didn't set off to do it. It just kind of happened back when I was.
Carl, by the way, yeah.
Yeah, it was I that did that.
Oh.
it goes back a number of decades now. You know, but another thing is the cryptids. You know, people have been asking me recently, in fact, these mysterious creatures, like almost animals, almost human,
Right.
demonic. Is Bigfoot
Are they
demonic or
devils?
something? You know, are they devils? Do they seep in from? Oh, I think they do come through portals. You know, from other dimensions, come through to us. In fact, my friends in Westfield, Massachusetts, shapeshifters of New England, are getting involved in cryptid research, in a case that I brought to their attention. And I don't think they are intrinsically evil. I don't think they are demonic, but they give indications of demonic, because people get an eerie feeling. I don't know why people are so afraid of these things. You just feel an inner fear, like you're sensing something to dread. And they disturb atmospheric conditions. They do things that physical animals can't. You know, and they've been through, like, ooh, I feel eerie, something's been here. And there are sightings of these. I think that's one of the most fascinating aspects of paranormal research, to look up cryptids, except we don't have a heck of a lot to look for. Either they're around or they're not. But right in here in Little Rhode Island and in Massachusetts, there is a dogman presence.
And
People are seeing dogman.
and it's Big Roddy too.
Big Roddy is the Bigfoot in Rhode Island. Yeah, these things are strangely real.
Yeah.
You guys do know I actually saw a Bigfoot one time. I'm not joking.
Yeah. You're convinced once you do.
Yeah.
Once you do.
Yeah. It just seemed like an animal to me. I mean, just watching it, because I saw it for quite a few seconds. I went out fishing one morning. This is back in the early 1990s, and it was just the other side of it was Kinderhook Creek. It was on the other side of the creek from me. I was the only one out there because I took a day off from work, so it was early in the morning, and I see this thing leaning down by the creek drinking water. It was like slurping it up, you know, like an animal would, right, with his face in the water. And it stood up on two legs, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It didn't scare me. I gotta say, it didn't scare me. It's just like,
It's interesting. It happens so quickly, you know?
Yeah, it does. It does happen very quickly. I mean, you're looking at something that maybe lasted 10, 15 seconds, but long enough that, you know, it was about 6
something's different. This is not a human being.
Covered in long brown hair. And actually, it was Steve Coles who told me. He goes, oh, my God, you saw the Kinderhook creature. There was all kinds of reports of it around the time that I had my experience right around that area. And he's like, you saw the Kinderhook creature? I'm like, I didn't. No, I didn't. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Because I didn't know what I saw. So I never told anybody until I met Steve Coles. That was many years. That was like 5 years ago. It was the first time I told anybody. That was him.
Fairly recent, yeah.
Well, I mean, my experience was in the early 90s, but 5 years ago when I first met Steve Coles is when he's the first one I ever told about it, because I just didn't really want to talk about it, because I when you're seeing it, it's happening. It's like, what am I looking at? What am I really seeing?
It's realistic, because your senses are trying to coordinate, you know, and collate, and you're like, you know, wait a minute, I'm seeing something odd. Wait, I don't know how odd it is. Wait a minute. This is what they call a Bigfoot. This is some kind of strange creature. And then it's, you know, the experience is over by the time you're analyzing it.
Exactly. And you know, I was a hunter and everything else, so I knew I'm looking at it and going, it's not a bear. It's walking like a person, but it's not a person. What the hell am I looking at? You know, I was in my 20s then, you know, so.
James had some kind of experience. I think he was busting to share with you briefly.
Yeah, I did. But
Sure.
You talking about like that sense of atmospheric change. Like, I had a frightening experience, more so because I wasn't understanding what I was comprehending in front of me. You know, I was at a graveyard, and you know, with brush line, of course, with the forest line. And, you know, I had my experience. It was frightening. So like, I wasn't prepared for it.
Cumberland, was it?
No, it was in North Kingstown.
Right.
So, but that was frightening because it was like, this is not what we expected to see investigating a graveyard. But I don't necessarily believe in that cryptids are interdimensional beings. I feel like they the same confines like the Kraken, which is now, you know, confined to the giant squid. You know, of course, in the same light as the Japanese gorilla.
Some of these things, it turned out they were cryptids. They were modern myths until they were discovered to be real
animals.
Yeah,
right, correct. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, I think I actually do think Bigfoot's more along those lines. having seen it and just watched how it was
I
for
envy
that
that.
short period of time, how it was acting in a normal environment, it seemed like an animal.
Yeah.
It didn't seem
Sense that
like a human. It didn't seem like a human, although it had humanistic features, but it just seemed like it was living out in the wild, whatever
Yeah.
it was.
you can give a good
And they can disappear. I mean, they can disappear real quick on you. Animals can disappear like 2 seconds.
They
I
do.
hunted a deer all my life. I used to see him come and go. It's like, what the heck? Where are you? He was there. Where is he now? They when they want to disappear, they can disappear real fast. Animals are like that. I think it's more intelligent than the typical animal. I will say that.
Yeah.
But is it human? Nah, I don't think so. Is it an alien? I don't know. But I won't say no to that. But
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Explanation, don't we? We want to be able to categorize it and understand it so we can reference it.
Oh, we do. And I would never leave anything out, to be honest with you. I mean, I keep an open mind to all that stuff because anything is possible.
Oh yeah.
Really.
It's called the
But you can
paranormal.
only go by your own
true.
observations at the time, too. So, certain things you look at and you see and you go, well, okay. This is what it is. And having been having been a woodsman for quite a long time, I've got that bias, I guess, in me. Right? So, that's part of it. But I never rule anything out either. Just like people want to ask me when I go into any kind of haunting, how do you know it's demonic right away? I don't. It takes time to figure that out, and usually it's not. So, So I go in not assuming anything. I don't even think assuming the place is haunted. I don't care what people tell me. I don't know anything until I get there, right?
It's hard not to form it.
You have no preconceived notions, which
Right.
it's just the most important thing you have to have when you have to be neutral minded. You have to.
You have to. I think I get that from working in engineering too, because when you're working in engineering, you can't make a determination of the results of your experiments until you've reviewed the data.
Right.
If you do, you're going to make bad decisions on your engineering. So
If you
you better let the data lead you. Yeah, you better do the data collection, and then let the data lead you to the right answer. So, even though it's something you don't want to hear. Wow, this thing really is a piece of junk. Okay, I can hit the front side of a barn. Right, time to go a different direction.
You are on the brink of discovery of finding a real specimen of Bigfoot, a dogman, a chupacabra. Oh, well, I think chupacabra has pretty much been proven to exist. But as far as those more man-like creatures, some people say it's only a matter of time. I contend that we'll never discover it. It will never be found, never be proven.
We may not. I mean, and that's okay. You know what? Some things that's okay too. It's okay to still not have any answers. Let people still try to figure it out.
So
what would life be if we had nothing to look into?
There's so much about Earth we don't understand. Like I think I could be a little bit off on the statistic, but I'm pretty close. I think 80% of our oceans unexplored, or something like that.
That's correct. Yeah.
70%.
Well,
I actually looked that up earlier, because I was curious how many animals we haven't discovered yet, and it was like 80% of the deep sea.
We know more about the surface of the moon than we do some sectors of the ocean.
Down in South America, they're finding all new creatures all the time. They're finding all.
Maybe that plesiosaur is down there. Maybe that became the Loch Ness monster. Maybe
very well could be.
Megalodon.
Rays that show up in fishing nets and trawlers.
Maybe there will be a Sharknado.
Yeah.
Oh.
We can only hope.
Hey, as far as the Loch Ness and all those kind of creatures go, even Champ up there in New York, there's some big darn eels up there. I can tell you that.
Oh yeah.
Some as long as 15 feet long. So
it's like a huge sturgeon or
it's possible.
I'm happy with that because that is the lake monster or the sea monster. Yeah. It's just that now we understand what it is.
That's why I love that show, River Monsters. That show, River Monsters.
River Monsters.
I'm Jeremy Wade, and I am.
River Monsters is great. That's a great show. I still love his shows. So, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Do you guys want to plug anything else tonight before we leave you for the evening?
We will be going to the S.K. Pierce House in March of 2021. March 27th, and there's still some tickets available. They're $65 each, and there are 6 tickets left. And we hope you guys can join us and all that. We'll update you on it. But that's also
absolutely
promoted on our website. Because we had conferences and they just haven't happened. They become virtual or they don't happen. But that'll be our next big thing, unless something alert. I mean, we do handle cases, and we do have people consulting us. But as far as an activity, planned activity, that will be in March 27th, SK Pierce House in Gardner, Massachusetts.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hopefully we can do that one. I'd love to join you guys for that.
Yeah, and to quickly shout out, like this great paranormal Q&A podcast. We also have our own podcast every Thursday at 8 p.m. We will be on hiatus for the next 2 weeks, but we will be coming back the 6th, which is a Wednesday, for a special edition. And I guess we can announce it. We haven't announced the graphic yet, but the 6th we're talking parapsychology with Lloyd Arbach.
And one of his students will be on hand, Elise Gianmarco Carlson, who is manager of Duo Daemonologie. It's our very close associate. Yep. She also is director of Panorama Paranormal with myself. And Elise has been through the Ryan Institute curriculum. She has a degree now from the Ryan Institute, as does our friend Michelle. And so she wants to see her instructor, her professor there, Lloyd Arbach.
So we're gonna get to speak to him.
Is that the 6th?
The 6th of January. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. And and we're still trying to actually book her for our show too. So, Carl, we did not forget about her.
She had a few.
She actually was not available tonight. That's why you guys are here.
So many irons and so many fires, and she has her Tesla. It's a new Tesla, brand new one, but it needed to go into the shop for some adjustment. That's what she has to do tonight. She's a homemaker. She is the president of the Johnston Historical Society in Johnston, Rhode Island. That and about 12 other things I could rattle off. So she does keep busy, but she does very much want to be your guest.
Yeah, and we will be having her on. We will be having her on. We just Carly and her are just trying to work out a date that works for her. So
we'll definitely eventually have you guys on as well. We try to go by a topic situation, so when we have the topic, we definitely will approach you guys.
All right, awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you again, and don't forget your books. And your books are both your books are on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com.
And Demonology.org.
Through Amazon.
Demonology.org. Yes. Don't forget their website, Demonology.org. I think Carly even posted it up there already. Yep. So thanks again, gentlemen. You guys have a great night. And we'll let you get back to you. We'll let you deliverance now.
Holidays. Yep. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Gee, I forgot to wear my Santa.
Happy holidays to
you and Bing Crosby. Happy holidays.
Good night, everybody out there. We'll let you go. These guys are going crazy. We'll let you go. Have a good night, everybody.
Enjoy your movie.
And happy holidays. Enjoy the rest of your movie. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. All right, and thank you all again. We'll see you all again soon. I think we're back on next week.
Oh, and I just want to say bye, Nick Mulai.
Mulai. Yeah, thanks. All right.
He goes, make sure you remind him my last name before you leave.
I always say it wrong. I know I always say it wrong.
It's all right. It's why we love you.
Sorry, Nick. You can remind me 100 times. I'll still forget it. All right. Good night, everybody.